This weekend's SummerSlam gave us the return of one of the biggest figures in pro wrestling and probably one of the most recognisable and marketable names of the last 10 years. Many times in many different companies. We had Brock Lesnar, we had CM Punk, but today I'm talking about Becky Lynch because we were within about 8 hours of a Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks feud that would have shaped SmackDown for years to come. Now, Sasha Banks unfortunately became unavailable this close to the event. It became formalised and the decision was made to have Becky Lynch essentially squash Bianca Belair. This also allowed Becky Lynch to go heel because primarily, or at least initially, the intention was to have Becky working as a face against Sasha Banks. Also, hi everyone, I'm Tom Colohue. I stream at twitch.tv/Tom Colohue with Spoiler Warning, which is our bi-weekly I should say, news show with more information on this. But let's talk specifically today about the fact that Sasha Banks was about 8 hours away from a feud with Becky Lynch over the SmackDown Women's Championship, in which Becky Lynch would have essentially been seen off, would have been thrown to the other side of the aisle over to Raw, probably with Seth Rollins in tow. Instead, what we have now, because of the unavailability of Sasha Banks, is a feud between Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair that, while not to that top level, is still pretty exciting a concept and something that I'm very excited about. This starts tonight on SmackDown. Bianca Belair will be looking for revenge from Becky Lynch, who essentially got a cheap shot and got the drop on her, taking advantage with the rock bottom-esque maneuver that Becky likes as a physical non-submission finisher. Becky doesn't have many non-submission finishes, but this one is one she's been using more and more because while the top level of the women's division is largely based around actual submission finishers, including Charlotte Flair, including Sasha Banks, even Bayley and Naomi have submission finishers as well, it is about time that some of them got those impactful one-hit finishes. Sasha is still working on hers, but we've seen Charlotte use the natural selection a lot more. This creates moments like this, where we get the 1, 2, 3 and the near fall, whereas a submission move doesn't automatically give us that. Becky was able to use that to basically have fans turn on her, and they actually have in quite a large amount. The WWE were able to essentially at least start the process of turning Becky Lynch heel, but we won't know for certain what's going to happen with that until tonight. This is one of the reasons that Becky Lynch would have been face when she initially came back against Sasha Banks' heel, but of course that is no longer the case. There have been a number of minor other changes made in the build-up to this. Becky Lynch, as we know, was originally going to be returning somewhere closer to the draft. I believe the absence of Bayley had a lot to do with Becky Lynch returning when she did, as well as a reaction to CM Punk and of course what happened with Sasha Banks. With Becky Lynch back, this could be the next tier, the next step in the elevation of Bianca Belair. Belair should really benefit from this particular feud and this particular situation because so far she was made by Bayley, she was crowned by Sasha Banks. They then did the cycle again. The intention was to continue to be made by Bayley and then once again at SummerSlam be crowned once more by Sasha Banks, although Sasha Banks would be winning the championship this time. She would then sort of sink down the card a little bit to take the pressure off her shoulders as she sort of comes back around ready to overtake again and take her position as champion maybe a year from now. Now she gets to take on Becky Lynch with the potential at Extreme Rules of a match between Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair in which Bianca Belair might defeat Becky Lynch to become a 2-time SmackDown Women's Champion. Anything can change in the draft. Vince McMahon notoriously makes his draft decisions very late in the day, which means that while Becky Lynch was originally planned to arrive on SmackDown and then return to Raw, that may in fact have already been changed to accommodate a longer championship run, but we're going to have to wait and see what actually happens as regards that. If you're excited for Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair starting tonight on SmackDown, let me know. You can also drop onto twitch.tv/Tom Colohue to join us for news videos live on Mondays and Fridays, 10 PM UK time, 5 PM EST. I've been Tom Colohue, and I'd just like to say thank you very much for watching.